Welcome to Nightmares and Scares. They say it's been a while, and they say good things come to those who wait. Well, you folks have waited quite a long time because we are finally back. Welcome to Nightmares and Scares. And with me, as always, is.
Dan, the horribly absent man.
Oh, see, Dan, don't throw yourself under the bus like that. I was going to take the blame, and I was just going to say, sorry, folks, I've been off doing Matt things. That's what we can call it. I'm a filmmaker wannabe, and I'm off making movies, so we could just say I've been off doing Matt things. You
Yeah, but
don't
that
gotta take
wouldn't
the blame.
be fair to Matt. I mean, it all started. Ended up going to Louisiana, guys. And yeah, I mean,
Oh, right, you
a
went to
little bit.
Louisiana. How was that?
It was pretty freaking cool. I mean, didn't get to go on the ghost tours like I wanted, but I did get to see some of the cemeteries down there, and I mean, there's nothing like it. Just the how big they are, and everybody's buried above ground because of the
Wait,
water table and everything down there. What's that?
they're buried above ground.
Above ground. So you have like the little buildups, and they're put inside there, kind of similar to closer to where we are around like the Chrisfield area. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but they do the same thing because the water levels get so high that bodies would actually raise up out of the ground and all
Hmm.
that fun stuff. From a horror aspect, we got to go close up by where Anne Rice lived, so that was pretty neat. And then we had the film location, like the outside. If anybody watched the TV show, The Originals, got to get
Never heard of
to
it.
see that one. So I don't know, it's like a True Blood spinoff, and then it ended up spinning off another show. I can't remember for the life of me what the other one was. It wasn't as good, but had like Klaus and a few other ones in it. But overall, beautiful architecture. Got to see the French Quarter and all that fun stuff. So and then now, fast forward, here we are, and we're talking about scary things again, and not just, if you bought in at GameStop at $30 and watch it go down to 26 and then swing back up to 32. These are scary times we're living in. But yeah, man. So how's Matt? How's Matt things going?
Matt's been doing Matt things. Making movies good, getting chugging right along. I actually updated our filming schedule last week. No, this week. What? I don't even know what the hell day it is. We're Wednesday as we're recording this. So this week on Monday, I went through and updated our filming schedule just to kind of plot out what we're going to film and get a rough idea of dates and what scenes we're going to film on those dates. And I think we got 19 more uh, days to shoot. Now we're shooting on like a 1 day a week type of deal because we have jobs and we're not doing this professionally for a living, unfortunately. So 19 days could go like that if we did 19 consecutive days. But
Hint,
we're
hint,
actually
hint, guys. Hint, hint. Please tune in to Matt's stuff. Help him get some money on the side so we can take his full time gig
right.
producing and directing. Because I'm sure we're going to get some great stuff out of this. Just wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, I appreciate the confidence. No, I'm very happy with how everything's turning out so far. Of course, we'll have more to show here on the show once it's ready. But I think in about 19 more weeks, which is actually going to put us into like October finishing. But that's okay because I wanted to be done by like September, October, so we'd have
I mean,
time
you're
for like
talking about the biggest project that you've ever worked on, and you're looking at closing it out by the end of
Oh
this
yeah,
year, Matt.
7 months. Yeah, it'll be a 7 month deal. We started
That's
in
freaking
March.
exciting, dude. That's freaking
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, we started in March, and if we're done in October, it'll be a 7 month deal, and that'll give us a few months. That'll give us until like I think the first film festival we're trying to get into is in March, so that'll give us a handful of months to get everything edited and put together, and trailers and advertising and all that stuff out before that happens. So that's kind
Well,
of
you know me. I love freaking stats. Are you keeping track of your budget as you're going to this?
I
Like, so,
am. I
yeah.
am. every time I have to update it on things I buy, because I'm self-financing this, so every time I have to update it, I'm like, "Oh," like, I hate typing the new numbers because it's like, you know, I haven't put a ton of money into it, but I put more into it than I would have liked to. For a movie that's a lot of just sit around talking, you don't I mean, it's more than that, but it's, essentially, there's it's not an action flick. It's not a CGI type deal, so for, like, something where it's just people having conversation and doing normal people things, there's a lot of money that's gone into this. Um, anyway, welcome to Nightmares and Scares, everyone. The show that invites you to grab your popcorn and your PJs and go to a place where every day is Halloween. A boy's best friend is always his mother, and that monster underneath your bed, it is absolutely real. Dan, usually we just kind of jump right in, but it's been a hot minute. I want to know some things. I want to know. Can you tell me? I wanna know. Um, I wanna know, what have you seen lately? Have we used to do this a couple shows ago. We would talk about, like, stuff we've watched. So, like, what horror-related stuff have you seen anything in the last month since we've been off that, you've watched? Scary?
I say the biggest one. I mean, granted, did start Alien, which is a whole nother uh, episode. Eventually, hopefully, we'll get to
It's
here
that one. Missed
soon.
that anniversary, didn't we?
Yes, we did, unfortunately. But the big one that I saw in theaters, I actually went with my wife to Tarot, and I know it got a lot of mixed reviews, not a lot of positive reviews, I guess.
I was gonna say,
I
I
know.
heard it was god awful. So, but you're the first person that I've know personally that is telling me somewhat opposite. So, but continue, sorry.
So I'm gonna say that in this film there was not a lot of build up. Like it just kind of threw you right in, and it was right in your face. The opening sequence reminded me a lot of Cabin in the Woods, which I'm a fan of.
Mm,
But
so
overall, it
I'm
didn't
immediately
really
gonna hate it.
it didn't really play out that way though, Matt. It had a lot of humor in it, and I like nightmares and scares. I almost say that I prefer almost nightmares and like laughing, just screaming, tearing up, cutting up. That is a good mixture for me, and I have seen. Honestly, I would go watch it. It's enjoyable. It's not one of those movies you expect a lot out of, and if you just go to watch it to have a good time, I think you're gonna come out and have a good time. And overall, as far as new things, probably not too much. I know you and I had both talked about doing a review of Arcadia, and I know we had both watched that. I did
Yeah.
finish that, so maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But honestly, again, I mean, I wasn't blown away by it. I mean, I really want to buy into things with Nicolas Cage. Like, I feel like I'm just waiting for his like next
His
big
big
thing.
comeback. Like, I'm waiting for his, like,
Right.
big comeback. Like, he's gonna do a movie, like, here anytime. It's gonna come out of nowhere, and it's just gonna, like, put him back on the map,
I
like,
mean, it's
more than
just
he
it's
already
got to
is.
hit the number that he's doing. Like, at least one of them has got to land, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be good. And
And
then
now
we see.
it's almost
Go
like he's
ahead.
doing less and less. Because I mean, he's come out and said, like, "Yeah, no, I fully was doing a ton of movies that straight to whatever, because I was in debt." And now he's apparently not in debt, or at least not as much debt anymore. So, like, I have seen a significant drop. Like, you couldn't go a week without a new Nicolas Cage movie popping out. Now it's like, okay, we're getting one every 3 or 4 months, 5 months. We're getting a couple a
They're
year.
advertised, and they're advertised
Yeah, and
heavily.
they're bigger. Yeah, they're bigger now than they were, like, just the sorry, but lack of better word, garbage that was going straight to DVD before.
So I guess
Um,
he's finally paid off his last payments on his dinosaur eggs and whatever the heck else he was getting into, his memorabilia. I guess he's like the largest collector of his own memorabilia. It's probably not true. You can fact check me. I don't know, but I know they made it seem that way in his movie with Pedro Pascal. Was
uh,
it the unbearable weight of massive talent? Which honestly, I did enjoy that. But
Yeah.
on top of that, I mean, we've had a lot of trailers drop and a lot of rumors about horror movies coming out since we talked too, right? We've seen the new trailer for Beetlejuice came out. We haven't had a chance to talk about that, so I know
That's a
you're the
whole
Michael
episode.
Keaton
We
guy.
should do a whole episode. I don't know how much time you got after we get done here, but we should do
Yeah,
a whole like 10-minute episode of reacting to that trailer. That
yeah,
because I could
sounds
talk about
fun.
Beetlejuice for like ever. So like if you get me started on Beetlejuice, we're not going to get to Immaculate.
And
We're just not.
just a sneak peek on that though, like the first trailer they had for it, I was worried, and then I saw
Really?
this, and I kind of was like, okay, I see where they're going. It looks a lot better than what I initially thought. So keeping the finger, and then they're talking about what, like rebooting Leprechaun.
Mm.
They're bringing back all these horror films. I know you saw a big one. We got to talk about that. The Strangers movie.
Yeah. So I was going to mention it when I went over some of the stuff I saw. So I'll just jump right in. I saw The Strangers Chapter 1. And, the director said that, this wasn't a remake. He wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a remake. Boys and girls, it was absolutely a remake. There was no way it's not a remake. Now, I will say this. They did it in the way that I like remakes. So I've gone on record several times to say I am not a fan of doing the same movie over. Like I am generally not a fan of remakes. Um, if a lot of people say, well, a lot of people agree with me. They don't like remakes, but like what makes a remake successful? To me, what makes a remake successful is taking the bones of that thing and doing something different with it. We talked about the original Omen, um, uh, the very first Nightmares and Scares. In 2006, they released a remake on June 6th just so they could have it come out at 6606. That was the sole purpose for that movie to be made. And it was a shot for shot, word for word remake that didn't need to be remade at all. Um, those are the type of remakes that I can't stand. Now, you give me a remake that takes the idea of something and does something completely different with it, then you got me. I'm thinking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, the one with Jessica Biel. That took the idea of Leatherface and his crazy family and did a totally different story than the original movie while still keeping somewhat of the original story. The Fly with our boy Jeff Goldblum. That is a remake. The original 50s Fly is nothing like the 1986 David Cronenberg Fly. Um, there's so many others. So I say all that to say The Strangers takes a lot from the original Strangers film, but then once you get into the home invasion, I didn't want to, but I mean, everyone knows what The Strangers is about. Once you get into the actual events of the film, some different things do start happening, and that's where they won me over with this. So, was it a great film? No. Um, is it the weakest of the three Stranger movies so far? Yes. I am a huge supporter of Strangers number two, Pray at Night or whatever it is. If you haven't seen Strangers two, dear God, go watch it because it's almost better than Strangers one. Um, but this is definitely the weakest of the three so far. And they brought in Richard Brake. Do you know who Richard Brake is? I'll throw him up on the screen in editing, but
Ask
you've
Kayla.
seen him.
She'd like be
You've
like, you
seen him.
know him, yeah.
Yeah, you've seen him. He is a terrifying actor. He's in a lot of Rob Zombie films. He was in Batman Begins. He was the guy that shot Bruce Wayne's parents in Batman Begins. Um, he's in a lot of movies, and he's a really good actor. And he's going to be in another movie that I mentioned here in a second. Um, he shows up as a police officer in this movie, and he's sitting in a diner. He has zero dialogue, and you see him for like seriously about a minute and a half, and then you never see him again. I kept waiting. I kept waiting for him to show up and save the day or something. No Richard Brake. And I was like, how do you get us a star of that caliber and put him in a cameo with no speaking? I can
But they
only
do it.
hope.
They do it all the time, Matt. They do that all the time. They get a little bit of star power, get you a little bit of interest. They can say they have them in it, and then boom.
But like they didn't even advertise it. Well, maybe he was in the trailer. I don't recall. But like I can only hope he shows up in part 2 because I guess this is chapter 1. And despite the semi-negative reviews, the movie, because it was made on such a low budget, the movie has 3 times surpassed its budget. It did very well financially. So I guess we will get. I don't know how that works because it did financially great, but the reviews weren't great. I don't know how that works as far as sequels
They,
go.
as long as they get money. I mean, let's talk about Sharknado, Matt. I don't know if the reviews get better on Sharknado, but they just keep coming, and anything that makes money will continue to live on. And if we, to have anything to take from real life to go by that fact, with Jurassic Park, life uh
Finds a
finds a
way.
way, right?
And
So,
it's
and
that's
that's
the
still going.
franchise is finding a way yet again somehow. Um, I can only hope. Look, I'm gonna watch it no matter what, but I may not like it. I don't expect
It's
to like it.
I don't know if I just I don't know we're getting off topic, but who the hell cares? You're here to watch us talk, I think. But overall, um, if they had just stuck, and I've said this to you before, just with the formula of the first movie and just stayed right there in that little zone about dinosaurs getting loose and terrorizing people, every little thing would have been all right. But it didn't go that way. So, but
No. Um,
I don't
I
know, man. Is that a
also.
good? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go, go, go,
I
go.
was just gonna real quick throw out that I also went down a Charlie Sheen rabbit hole that I hadn't expected to go down, and
Oh
watched a
boy.
bunch of Charlie Sheen films and found
Oh boy.
myself quite entertained. Um, I enjoyed several of them. I did not enjoy several of them. So I went a week.
Do you
I did
enjoy
a
him
whole
as an
week.
action star or comedy? Like
I
what's
think
your take?
my favorite of the bunch was Wall Street with Michael Douglas. But then like right behind that was Hot Shots, so like kind of action, but also kind of silly comedy because I think that was like a rip of Top Gun a little bit. So a little bit of both. And then I've always loved an 80s movie called Lucas. He did with Corey Haim and Winona Ryder. Um, that's always been one of my favorite movies ever. Um, and then lastly, I mean, I watched a bunch of other things, but lastly, I guess I should talk about. Well, no, I got two more. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make it quick. So because I talked about the other Richard Brake thing, he shows up in a movie called uh, "The Last Stop to Yuma County." I think that's what it's called. Um, I just closed my app, and I don't know why because I need it here in a second to talk about Immaculate. Um, yeah, The Last Stop in Yuma County. This movie came out of nowhere. I'd heard people talking about it and saying that you need to see it, and I watched it finally. It was like 14.99 to purchase on Vudu, and I went ahead and purchased it because I'm not a renter. I'm not going to rent it. I'm just going to buy it, especially if it's like 7.99 to rent, 14.99 to buy. I'm just going to buy it. Um, it's very Tarantino-ish. It's very I don't know. It's just so different than anything that's, that I've seen in a while. It's not horror, obviously, but it is like suspense and action and thriller a little bit. And like I said, Tarantino. So there's a lot of talking, a lot of conversation. And Richard Brake is terrifying in it. You want to talk about nightmares and scares? He's a very scary character in it, and he's so good, so good. And lastly, I watched the first Omen, which is a prequel to the original Omen, and it is about a nun who conceives an evil baby. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think that kind of brings us full circle to what we're here to talk about today.
Is that our segue to Immaculate?
I
Oh my
think
god.
we can finally now talk about Immaculate.
I'm so ready to talk about this movie, guys. So glad that you've there's a there's a loose bolt just sitting in my computer. I'm so ready to talk about it. Um Anyways,
Uh, anyways, um, Dan, we usually say, "What were your initial thoughts?" So I'm gonna kick it to you. What were your initial thoughts on Immaculate?
I'm gonna be short. I'm gonna be sweet. My initial thoughts: how's Sydney Sweeney gonna do leading in a horror movie? That's where I'm at. Those were my thoughts.
That's your initial thought on the film. Okay. Um, all right. I personally didn't know what to expect from Immaculate, and I watched Immaculate before I watched First Omen. They both came out around the same time, like almost back to back. And I had more interest in the First Omen just because of that franchise. But Immaculate looked like it probably should have been the First Omen. Like probably that's what that movie should have been called. Um, but it looked interesting. It looked like something that I would maybe enjoy at home. Like, I hadn't anticipated on going to theater to watch it, and, so I saw this in the theaters. I guess I should specify because this has been out for a while. I saw this in the theater, and then it came out, and it's now available to buy on demand. Dan, that's where you watched it on Vudu, I believe, and, it, I guess I could say it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Um,
Uh,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna say this, I was talking about First Omen, this is where I'm gonna leave the First Omen because 'cause I'm not gonna keep bringing it up, but, First Omen was what Immaculate wanted to be.
Hmm. I mean, this movie wanted to be a lot of things. This movie wanted to be Rosemary Baby. This movie
Yes.
wanted to be freaking the Omen, just
Yeah,
Omen, period.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know, Matt started watching this thing. They had the opening sequence, the nun getting chased, and a whole bunch of other nuns like reaching through. It almost seemed like they had supernatural strength, breaking her leg, and then they're burying her in the ground. And after that, you really don't get any more of that.
No,
Like it seems like
that's
it's set up
that's
to
for the
be a
prequel.
paranormal. Yeah, yeah, it's like it's set up to be a paranormal thing, and it's really, really not. And they introduced the head guy, the head father, whatever his name is, that finds
Well,
Sweeney
let's
Todd's
let's get into
character.
let's get into names. I'm gonna put you on pause for just a second. Let's get into names because we haven't done that. It's been a while since we're a little out of touch. Immaculate, directed by Michael Mohan. Um, an American nun embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and unspeakable horrors. And of course, the film stars Sydney Sweeney as Sister Cecilia, Alvaro Morte as Father Sal Tedeschi. We'll go with it. Uh, Benedetta oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Porcaroli as Sister Gwen, Dora Romano as Mother Superior, and we'll go one more. Giorgio Calan. Oh, never mind. Google it. I these are like Italian
Shit.
names, and I don't want to keep butchering them, which I already know I am. So like they're
Oh,
very Italian names, and it'd be disrespectful for me to continue to try to say these names inappropriately.
So, anyways, back to the review. I had to look at the one too, just to refresh myself. So, Tedeschi reveals himself to have been in the field of biology for, I think he says, 20 years before turning to becoming, a priest. Um, and at that moment, it just stuck with me. I was like, the title's Immaculate, and we're talking about somebody who's worked in biology. And then there's a sequence in this where after she takes her vows, she's like held down by these nuns in the red masks, and we never really get into that either. It just happens, and she thinks she's having a nightmare, and all of a sudden someone pops up, got a needle, and it just jabs it right into her abdomen, and then next thing you know, she's awake, and then she starts having, these. Well, this is after she holds the nail that apparently has been used to help crucify Christ on the cross. I guess we should put that note in there. And then at that point, she wakes up. She starts throwing up. I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. I mean, it's all come together. She's just gotten impregnated, and I'm like, I wonder what they impregnated her with. I'm thinking they got that something DNA off of the nail somehow. And I mean, it was a long lead up to a very predictable twist, and nothing. It wasn't like overly done with jump scares, which I kind of moderately appreciate. Like what they went for was kind of like, what is going on with these people? What's going to happen to this lady who's like talking to her? Her friend gets her freaking tongue cut out. Other lady who's jealous of her, they put her down, like they push her off a roof, or she jumps off the roof. I don't think they ever really got into that either. But um, I think the only redeeming part about this for me, which is why I give it any kind of rating, like toward the end of this when we give it the ratings, is like the ending. Like the closer we got to the end, the more the movie started to feel like how it should have probably been the whole time.
Yes.
And I will say that Sydney, when she starts in the delivery scene with the baby and she starts giving like those primal scream shouts and everything, I mean, at that point, I'm like, okay, there's like the first anything that I got out of her. And maybe I'm being a little too critical, but I was like, okay, I mean, she really pulled that off. So overall, I mean, just give me like the last 25 minutes of the movie. I mean, everything else was pretty much said in the title. I mean, I hate to be that way, but kind of was. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So, Matt, I guess your final thoughts or reflections, you can bounce off me. Tell me that you hate what I said so far. I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
No, I actually agree with most of what you said. So Sydney Sweeney does her thing here, and I that's all I kept hearing about going into this. Was like, oh, Sydney Sweeney, oh, Sydney Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney. I guess she's like, and I had seen her. I didn't realize I'd seen because I was like, who? And because I don't live under a rock, but sometimes I like
Don't
to
you
think
watch
I do.
Euphoria?
I do. So that's what. So that's when
What's
like
going
there's
on,
a
Matt?
she's on
Matt knows
Euphoria.
actors' names. I don't know actors' names.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know
She's
actors'
like
names.
everybody was like, she's on Euphoria, and I was like, there's so many women on Euphoria. How am I supposed to know which one? And then I googled her, and I was like, oh, okay, I know who this is. So
Well, if
like,
they
but I didn't.
didn't advertise her, if they did not advertise her, I don't know if anybody would have gone. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I
anybody
don't
would
think
have
so.
wanted. I don't know.
I don't think so. No. Um, but yeah, she I didn't have an opinion on her one way or the other. Like she was just a character in Euphoria that I had seen. Like I didn't really have a, you know, like everyone else was like so big high on her, and I was just like, okay, she's just a person that I've seen on screen. Um, but she was fine for what she had to work with. Um, for the script she had, the cinematography, the way it was shot, I think was very well done. I think that was probably one of the better things in the movie for me. Um, the story, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It was basic, it was simple, it was predictable, and basic and simple can be okay sometimes. But then when you also add in predictable, and this has been done before, and it's been
So
done, and
many
it's been
times.
it's been done
So
many
many times.
times and many
Better,
times better.
better, better.
Um,
Yes.
um, the first two acts of this film, if you're to break into a three-act structure, like you said, just are just like, oh my god, like they were just fine. They were fine for me. Um, and then the third act is where it really starts to go off the rails. And um, I think that's where the movie really shines. Like you were saying, Dan, um, I think that's where the part that I enjoyed most, and that's where the movie, uh, succeeded more than anywhere else for me. You'd said give me the last 25 minutes of the movie over, and that I agree 100%. Like the last half hour of this movie was the best part. Um, if you're a Sydney Sweeney fan, I would recommend this. If you're a nunsploitation fan of horror, I would recommend this. But as far as that, I would say, I thought the first Omen was better. Mm. One other thing I wanted to touch on really quick was that it does sit one of the good things it has going for us is that it does sit right in our wheelhouse of that 90-minute time frame. Uh, I believe it runs at 89 minutes, so we're actually a minute shorter of the 90-minute uh, time mark that we like to be at. So it's a nice, easy, quick watch. Um, unless what you're watching feels like, can this hurry up and end? Which I gotta say, I gotta be fair, I didn't feel that. I personally didn't feel that. I didn't feel like, "Ugh, this needs to hurry up and get over with," but it still felt like it had so much potential there, and it just didn't deliver.
I mean, listening to you talk, and I appreciate you bringing up like the whole thing about nunsploitation because I would have never known that was a subgenre. I would have never known.
Oh,
Like, I
yeah, it's
know
a
there
whole
are
thing.
movies with
It's a whole thing.
nuns. I know it's out there. I know
Yeah.
they're there. I just didn't know that. Like, oh yeah, we've now
Yeah,
have a
it's like a
subgenre.
whole like you said, it's a subgenre of horror. It's a nunsploitation is a whole thing.
But overall, I mean, yeah, 89 minutes, cool, awesome, great, grand. If it was like the first couple acts, like you were saying, I feel like I don't know if I would have wanted to sit through even that much, but it got better. I think again, progressively the pacing picked up. Um, and I mean, I guess there's really nothing left to do here except for kind of get down to the nitty gritty and get down to how we rated Immaculate. So, did you want to kick that off, or did you want me to do that? How you want to do that, man?
Well, we always do. I say, how do we want to rate this? And I start kind of trying to come up with goofy things that we could rate it out of. And you end up picking the one that we go with. So, do
Hmm.
we want to rate this 1 out of 10 nuns? That's simple. Or do you have any
Think
ideas?
think on this one, like I think it's called a habit that they wear. So let's say none
Habit.
habits.
Yes.
Yes.
1 out of 10 nun habits. So, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you since I spoke last. How do you rate this 1 out of 10 nun habits?
I don't feel like I'm any better for seeing this, but I don't feel any worse off. And for that reason, that I give this 5 out of 10 none habits.
Good deal. Good deal. I also am giving this a 5 out of 10 nun habits. We're going to copycat. Is this our first same exact uh, rating?
I feel like there was one that we lined up the 10. We had the 10 together that we both went on. Which one was that? It was recent. That was one of our most recent ones.
Late night with the devil. It had to have been
Yes. Yeah.
because that's the
It
only one that I've given a
had
10
to been
to. So
right.
yeah, so Late Night with Devil, we both agreed 10. So we both agree 5 for Immaculate. And like Dan just said, it's you're not really any better for seeing it, but it doesn't really hurt to watch it either, I guess. It just kind of exists. It's a movie that honestly I might go back to one day, like 3 or 4 years from now. I'm like, oh hey, yeah, let's check this out. But like it's not something I'm gonna watch over and over. Um With that said, I think it's time to see what you, the audience members, thought about this movie. As you know, or as you may not know, this is your first time joining us. We go through the interwebs and find real life reviews. We call this real reviews, and we pull one 5-star rating and one 1-star rating, and we read them here on the show. Okay, I thought you were giving me some sort of signal to wait.
Yeah.
No, so Dan, I will take the 1 star and I will give you the 5-star.
Woohoo.
So here we are. Here's the 1-star rating. oh gosh, by Clara Clear. She gave it a 1 star, and she says it is appalling in every way except the settings. Typical marble cloisters and beautiful vast halls in a tranquil Italian countryside. No nun would have such an opulent bedroom. Look at the word she's using. Opulent bedroom or be allowed long hair, by the way, which I don't know if she's right about that. Maybe. The whole thing was ridiculous, and the storyline, what there was of it, was tired and rehashed nonsense with the usual evil, sinister nuns and mad priests. Set in modern times, yet seemingly there was no electric light, just candles at night for the by now long overworked atmospheric effect. No nuns ate so well at sumptuous dinners, nor apart from hanging a few sheets did any of them seem to do any work. The mass rituals were out of date and total. Okay, is Clara a real nun? Like, I'm really
That's
beginning to
what
think
I'm trying
Clara.
to think that too, but I mean, we don't see a picture with a habit on. Maybe, who knows?
No, but I mean, I really feel like she knows all about nuns. She's our nun expert. Like, maybe we should have her on the show.
Or at least
Um,
she's exposed to nuns, maybe in the Catholic Church.
yeah. Oh, that could be. Maybe she's Catholic. The mass rituals were out of date and totally. I need to follow along here. Totally inaccurate. All just a concreted effort to create an aura of menace, but failing miserably to the discerning eye, as it was without any substance and was just a parody of the old Hammer films. No matter how bored you are, don't waste your money or time. Go for a walk. Doesn't deserve even 1 star, but had to award it that to post the review.
It's funny to me, like when some people are like, their review has to be out there, so I've got to give it a 1 star just so others can see how much I really didn't want to give this one a star. It's funny to me.
Yeah, for sure. So, Dan, now I'm going to turn it over to you for our 5 star review.
Oh my goodness. All right, so Mr. Saeed Rizvi.
Sure.
No spoilers here because I'd recommend you horror fans to go watch the movie and prepare to be amazed. This story is a hybrid between The Nun and Rosemary's Baby. However, Sydney Sweeney literally nailed it with her scream queen antics. You'll surely reach for your remote quite a few times if you don't want to wake up to wake up the neighbors. This is by far one of her best performances to date. Alvaro Morte, Professor Money Heist, plays a priest with devoted gentleman vibes while saving surprises for later. I know I promised no spoilers, but couldn't keep this one to myself. On that note, I'd say the movie has an out and out ancient cult classic theme with a modern day technological twist. Loved a horror movie after a long time since James Wan made Conjuring. However, I'd surely put this one right up there on my list of good horror movies to rewatch. Attention, this movie can pick up pace and get really disturbing, gory, and bloody. Were we watching the same movie? Were we watching? I don't know, with The Conjuring?
I kind of halfway
Dude,
agree with Clara more than I do Saeed there.
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, I don't know where the fast pace was. Like even in the final scenes where it started picking up a little bit, it's still, you know, pattered
Yeah,
along.
for sure. Um, well, folks, that just about wraps up this episode. We thank you for joining us as always. If you are joining us for the first time, if you've happened to stumble upon us because you're a nunsploitation fan or a fan of this movie or a fan of Sydney Sweeney, we invite you to take a look around. We're doing this show. We have some new episodes. We have some old stuff. If you go into the playlists, they are all there archived as well. Um, and we'll be doing more. We'll be doing more each. We took a little break, so there will be a month gap if you happen to pay attention to dates. But we'll be getting back on a regular programming schedule here very soon. Hopefully, starting with this. And if you like what you see, click that subscribe button, click the notification bell so you get alerted each and every time we post a new video. Just because you never know when we might drop something new. It might be something 2 episodes in a week. It might be something, on an unexpected day. Just when you think you have the answers, Dan, we go and change the questions.
I keep seeing the
Um,
monster coming out from under the bed behind me too. It's getting kind of
I saw
annoying.
that too, and we talked about at the beginning of the show how the monster under the bed is absolutely real, and I'm seeing it for myself. Um, we're gonna wrap this up, but before I kick it off, I know Dan, I at the top of the show, off mic, off air, I said that we weren't going to announce what we were going to watch. Well, I've since had time to rethink that, and I think I've picked our next pick.
Okay.
So you have no idea what's coming, but which is what I love to do. I love to surprise and spoil. So our next episode, since we missed the Alien 45th anniversary episode, we are going to celebrate another anniversary this year. It's a big one. Can you any thoughts? Any hints of what could be turning a
Matt,
big number
the,
this year?
the funny thing about, movie anniversaries,
Yeah,
every movie has an anniversary every year.
that's
So, I mean,
true.
the
That's true. But
possibilities
we're
are endless.
um, A Nightmare on Elm Street is turning 40 years
Ooh.
old this year, and while that doesn't happen actually until November, we what the heck? We're just going to celebrate it now. In fact, because I think I kind of want to cover a couple of those movies between now and November. So, so A Nightmare on Elm Street will be our next pick. So be sure you join us for that. And if you want to follow along, that is streaming on Netflix. So until then, any final thoughts? Any final words, Dan?
I don't know. Apparently, this was so evil, I've sprouted a horn on the back of my head. So tune in next time. See if I get my second one. I'm earning my degrees up the ladder here. So, but no. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure, and we will see you on the flip side.
And we'll see you in your nightmares.